what's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's
That is.
Of course.
Oh, we should get serious. Okay.
We can get serious. Let's see. Let's talk seriously. Okay, so you're running for the school board, and you ran before. You ran when the incorporation occurred. So when we first had the unified school district, or did you run before?
No, I actually ran in 2008, which was before that.
So that was before that. That was okay. That was the one that ended up being a group of board members who did all the work to kind of do unification.
That's right.
Okay.
I don't know about all the work, but the vast majority of it, yes.
Well, theoretical, yeah. A lot of work they had to have done. Yeah. So so there has been an election since that election and the election we're on currently. Right, there was the one for the unified board. Is there a reason why you opted not to run then, but you opted to run now? Like, did something happen that there's something come to your attention that you thought you could help in addition with? Is that why maybe you skipped a round?
Actually,
Does that make sense?
actually, the last couple of elections, there was this little thing called the housing market, and I wasn't quite sure how stable my position was. And I really felt like unless I knew that, or I had every reason to believe, you obviously don't know, but unless I had every reason to believe that I would be around for the full term, I didn't really feel like it was right to run. And the housing market was so unstable, and since I was in housing, I felt like it wasn't that I had a reason to believe, I actually had a reason to suspect that I wouldn't.
Right, sure, that makes sense. I that seems totally reasonable. You'd want to be there for the whole term. If you're going to run for something, yeah, do the whole way.
There are good reasons to resign, and obviously losing your job and having to move somewhere is one of them.
I think they get a whole lot better.
But I feel like before you run, you should kind of do a self-evaluation and a self-inventory and make sure you have every reason to believe that there's not some issue that's going to come up.
Yeah, you're agreeing with the vote. You're saying to voters, yeah, I want to be your representative for 4 years. Once you've said that, then you should try to fulfill your 4 years. If you suspect you may not be able to, I think that's completely reasonable. So then this election, you did have an option. This election, you could have ran for a 2-year seat as opposed to a 4-year seat. Because Shane's seat is only a 2-year seat. But you opted for the 4-year seat instead of the 2-year seat. Actually feel like the roots are there and you're going to be in the community for much longer. Your kids, I think, have just gotten to the high school, right? So I think...
Yeah, and I've been working in Sacramento for 2 years now. It is kind of a long commute, but I'm used to it. And actually, time-wise, it's not as bad as some of the people in this. Yeah, it's reversed, and it's not as bad as some of the people in this community that they commute all the way into Pleasanton and then they ride BART all the way into San Francisco. Now that's a commute.
There's people who commute out to Google and Facebook's headquarters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I have a question. So I know you said you ran in 2008, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is the difference in your platform now as opposed to 2008?
That's a great question. For the last 2 years, I have been serving on 3 of the parent-teacher organization boards, Bethany School Foundation, Cuesta School Foundation, and Wickland School Foundation. I've been helping them with some paperwork issues that they had with the IRS. Happy to report that all 3 of those organizations have their exempt status back retroactively. So it is as if the problem never occurred in the first place, but it's taken us 2 years to get there.
That's the best kind of resolution.
Yes. And there was never a question as to whether that would happen. But over the last 2 years, I've been working pretty closely with those boards, and therefore pretty closely with a lot of the parents and a lot of the teachers in those 3 villages and those 3 elementary schools. And there's been a common thread of communication that I've had with parents, teachers, and the boards of those parent-teacher organizations. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between the school board and the parent-teacher organizations and the school board and the community. And I think over the last 2 years, I've developed a lot of strong contacts with the community by doing that. And I think that I can really bring some value and enhancing communication between the school board and cooperation between the school board, the parent-teacher organizations, and the community at large.
So how did you find yourself in a position where you were assisting with the IRS? How are you uniquely qualified for said assistance?
That's a fair question. I'm a CPA. with 20 years of experience in business and construction. I haven't been a CPA for 20 years. God, I hope not. That would make me really old. But and I just heard that basically I didn't know anything about the issue, and I heard a rumor, and so I just asked the question and went to the boards and said, hey, if you have a problem, I can help. I've helped other not-for-profits. I've been a volunteer and a board member for, I can't even count the number of organizations over the last 20 years that I've been on the board for not-for-profits, so I know something about it. And I knew that it's just a matter of wearing down the IRS and filling out form and answering their question, and just you got to slog through all the issues. And so rather than pointing at these organizations and saying you need to do something, I firmly believe in a core value of mine is leaders who serve. And so somebody needed to roll up their sleeves and get that done, and I figured I was the guy that could do it.
Apparently you were right.
I did, yeah.
Just a question. Obviously, you're not an employee of the district,
That's right.
right? I'm guessing you may volunteer at the schools on occasion.
I do a lot, yes.
Okay. Did you serve on any of the foundations that you were assisting?
I was never a board member of any of the foundations until 2 years ago. I did a lot of volunteer work, like, at the carnivals, I'd be the guy that was there early helping set up, and I'd be the guy that I'm sorry, Bob. I'd be one of the people that was there early setting up, and I'd be one of the people that were there late. I didn't really feel like I had to be on the board and be a decision maker to help out. In the case of, for the last 2 years, I have been on those boards because it's really hard to answer questions from the IRS without being on the board.
You're on all 3 boards?
Yes.
So then, completely directed question for you, if you're ready. How do you feel that the school district, maybe an employee at the school district, should have handled the tax situation instead of you as a parent volunteer on occasion who happened to make the time to do so?
That's a great question, and it's one of the recommendations that I'm going to make to the school board, regardless of whether like even before the election. It's true that the school board needs to provide leadership to the parent-teacher organizations, but and there are 2 facets to leadership. One is providing direction, and there's several school board members that have that part down pretty well. But the other part of leadership is facilitation, and the school board right now asks for a packet of information, which is what were your financial results last year, and what is your planned fundraising activities for the coming year. The simple answer is that if they require that packet to include 3 other documents, which is the filing with the IRS, which is required every year, it's an electronic, if you have your exempt status, it's an electronic postcard. The filing with the FTB, another electronic postcard. So you go in, you say, yes, we still exist, we're here, you print off your receipt, and the last one is your filing with the Secretary of State. If we just add those 3 pieces, those 3 printouts, then none of our PTOs will ever have this problem again, because if they come to present and they say, I don't know what you mean with this filing with the IRS, it's like, well, okay, there's 5 other PTOs, we can put you in contact with somebody who can. And so it was just a matter of, saying, hey, what do we need to do to make sure the PTOs are okay? And then saying, okay, we can ask for this. We're not lording it over them. We're just saying, hey, show it to us, because we have a fiduciary obligation to the members of our district that their charitable contributions are not at risk because the IRS revokes the exempt status of those PTOs. So I think it's a pretty simple solution.
Because you have essentially 5 parents who have decided to give up time on a monthly basis to help their school raise money. And there's no pre-existing requirement for them to know how to file taxes for a nonprofit.
Can you imagine what it would be like if we said you can't volunteer for a PTO unless you have these 50 qualifications? They're parent volunteers. They need to be respected.
Qualifications.
Yeah, they need to be respected, they need to be appreciated, and they need to be facilitated. And to be honest, the feedback that I'm getting from the boards is that, those things aren't happening, which is why it's no surprise that the presidents and a significant number of those board members have provided their endorsements to me in my candidacy for school board.
I mean, given that you've done 3 of them so far, you've worked with the three of the boards at least, did you put together any sort of like a packet or like a cheat sheet sort of thing that could be utilized to help the newer ones as they come online? Like when Hanson comes in, for example, do you have something prepared where you can say, and I've done this before, guys, and once you have your board, like, here's a checklist that you guys could go down, and this will get you on the right path so that, it doesn't take you guys 2 years to get your stuff done. Have you thought about putting together like a packet like that for
Actually, I'm sorry
schools?
if I
Go ahead, it's fine. I interrupt people all the time. That's what I do.
Actually, I've done 2 things. There's 2 separate issues. One is getting your tax exempt status. That's one thing that you have to do. And retaining your tax exempt status. I've created a how-to manual with links. So you open the Word document, each treasurer for each income, each organization opens the how-to document, they click on it, and it takes them to the IRS website with the instructions. Because one of the things I say is, by the way, the IRS changes their rules periodically. So you can't just rely on what you did last year. So here is where the IRS posts that.
Right.
Scan it, make sure that the 990N in the case of the IRS is the electronic document that you need to file. And so it's the how-to document is there. And then, for keeping your exempt status. And then the other side of that question that you were talking about is helping new organizations that are coming in. And a great example of that is the high school's Performing Arts Booster Club. I'm actually also the treasurer of the Mountain House High School Athletic Booster Club. And obviously their exempt application, it's an IRS Form 1023, has already been filed. But I reached out to the Performing Arts Booster Club, and said, hey, this is the document that you need to file. I can provide you. It's a public document. When I filed it for the booster club, the athletic boosters, it became a public document available to anyone. It's not classified information.
Right.
And I said, you can use ours as a template. You have to understand the questions and make sure you're answering it correctly, because if you plan on doing bingo, you have to answer it a certain way. If you're planning on doing raffles, you have to
bingo.
do it a certain way. And I just was very clear with them, look, this is a template. I offered to actually do it for them, but I did create a packet that people can use, that new organizations can use, so that they can get their 1023 filed quickly.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately, it will still take a significant amount of time to receive the exempt status. That is one of the benefits of the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, versus a generic PTO, is that if you're a PTA, you fall under the umbrella of the National PTA Association. The downside is you're paying dues. Like right off the bat, your parents are going to have to raise more money. On the benefit side, and it's a significant plus, they start off almost immediately with their exempt status. So the whole Kohl's, CARES thing, all of that stuff, they have a leg up. It could be debated which one is better, but the reality is, booster clubs, we don't have that ability. There is no national booster club. I researched it to see if there was one. There are national booster club organizations that want to charge you money, but you don't get your exempt status underneath them. So I created a packet that will help all of those booster clubs get their exempt status as quickly as possible.
That's awesome. Is it? Do you have like a website that's available on it right then? Like ColinClements.com or something? I don't know.
Actually, yes. My website was published today.
Awesome.
It is electColinClements.com.
Was it really?
It really
That
is.
was a total guess.
It really is.
That's great.
That
was a guess.
On there you can download my brochure. You can endorse me. You can read about the issues. I have stated. I've gone through the issues and said, here is my position on them. By the way, that's a great thing about being a candidate and not being on the board yet, is I get to talk about the issues. I'm not constrained by the Brown Act.
Yeah, you can talk pretty much with whoever you want.
Okay, so the tax problem is settled, right? We have our
That's right.
nonprofit status. So what do you have left to do then? You sound pretty accomplished.
Well, as important as the community service was to me, and And even though it was kind of a springboard that kind of led me to decide to consider again whether to run for school board, that's actually a small part of the reason, a small part of the value that I think that I bring to the school board. I think that the 20 years that I have in business and construction, the most recent article, or that recent article, the $140,000 sidewalk issue, right now the question is whether or not Turner Construction did appropriate preparation procedures given the expansive soils. And the reality is that when you sign a contract with a contractor, not when you buy a home. When you buy a home, you didn't hire that contractor to do something for you. They said they built a home for you. So fit and finish, all that kind of stuff, they have to fix it. But when you hire a contractor to build a school for you, the risk gets divided up. There's a million different risk components, and they get divided. You're either on the school district side of the table or they're on the contractor side of the table. And it takes a lot of knowledge and a lot of time and a lot of effort to negotiate construction contracts for schools. And the fact that we are arguing about whether or not Turner Construction used appropriate methodologies given the expansive soils says that the district retained the risk as long as Turner didn't agree to build and deliver a pristine school. They agreed to do appropriate construction methodologies given the expansive soil and based on the advice of the soils expert. We don't have to sign contracts like that. We can sign a contract saying, Turner, we want you to deliver a clean school. Like if expansive soils cause a problem, you need to fix it. And the reason why you want to do that is because you have 3 different trades that are all bidding the school, and you tell all 3 trades, all 3 contractors the same thing. You're bearing the risk. And Turner says, well, it's going to cost me $1 million, to retain this risk on my side. And it's like, well, the other 2 contractors aren't telling me that. They're willing to retain the risk because they're willing to do more soil boring to make sure that they truly understand the soil on the site.
So the issues that we've had, do you think that these are typical of building a school? Is this something that the district should have possibly seen coming?
Well, Sharon Lample herself said it in the school board meeting where they were discussing the $140,000. She specifically said she's not she doesn't understand construction. It's like if you look at my skill sets with 20 years of construction and business, I complement the skill sets in the district. I'm not a principal. I'm not claiming to be an expert at all things education, but I have plenty of resources in the district office to draw from to complement what I don't know. But if you look at the school board members and specifically the candidates that are running for school board today, my skill sets complement the district. They don't duplicate the district.
So do you think that kind of an explanation that, hey, maybe it isn't my job to know these things, do you think that that's acceptable, or do you feel that as someone on the board who's been elected to represent parents who may also not have this knowledge, that it could be that person's job to go and ask those questions and
absolutely
gather that data and
if
share with
the
us?
commitment that I make is, I know what I don't know, right? I know that I don't know everything about a school district. But the commitment that I'm making to the people of this district is, if it takes till 2 o'clock in the morning, if it takes a huge amount of hours, I'm willing to do it to make sure that I learn and understand the issues before we decide on them. A great example of that is, granted it's the athletic boosters. In December, the district came to us and said, we need the athletic boosters to raise a significant amount of money.
Who said it? $250,000.
$235,000 because
You gotta round up.
they included $15,000 in the budget. And let's face it, anybody who's been on a board for an athletic program knows that $15,000 is not going to cover nearly enough. I mean,
Won't get you
$15,000.
balls.
Yeah, if I wasn't going to say that, but
I
did.
great.
I'm paying an awful lot for balls if that's the case, but it's all
They're
right.
nice balls.
And one of the major strategies that the Athletic Boosters came up with, because let's face it, you are not going to raise $250,000 selling sweatshirts. It's not going to happen.
But you guys are trying really hard.
Yeah, I was buying one literally
And
tomorrow.
the Spirit Wear Committee and the Concessions Committee and the Membership Committee, they're doing a fantastic job. I love them so much, and I'm so grateful for them. But the reality is the major strategy that we came up with was advertising on the fence, right there on Mascot. And the district told us that we could do it, and based on that, we actually, went out to all of the developers
How
that
long
have.
ago?
This was in January that we
January.
started our marketing efforts.
9 months. 9 months ago.
And the thing is, when you go to division presidents of home builders and you get them to listen to you and sit down and say, and I high pressured and said, look, you sold homes for the last 10 years. You've been selling homes and monetizing our high school. And now our high school needs you. And I need you to help me. And we're going to have a wall of fame. And I really want Pulte not to be the only home builder whose image is not on our wall of fame. And I did everything I could to get those things sold. And the district did not approve an advertising budget. It took until August. And by then, all the momentum is lost. You run out of things to tell a division president about why it's being delayed. So at the end of the day, here's what I'm saying, is I get that the school board cannot approve a policy unless they believe that that policy is in the best interest of the district. But what I can say is, if you have asked the athletic boosters to raise $235,000 and you've agreed that one of the major ways that they can get that money is through advertising, you have an obligation to get a policy approved quickly. And I don't mean 2 weeks, but I also don't mean 8 months. Sometimes it sucks to be on the board. Sometimes it means you just got to roll up your sleeves and get the job done.
So let's say you get elected to a board position for the school district. How will that affect your ability to volunteer?
I thought long and hard about that. 2 things. Number one, Dave Pombo is on the board of Lammersville.
Sure.
And, he, attends a lot of events. He's very supportive of the other organizations and all of the elementary schools. And so, I kind of looked at that and said, I'm not precluded from continuing to volunteer, because that is pretty important to me, is facilitating, and that side of leadership. But the other side of the coin is that the reason why I joined those 3 boards was to help them through a very important issue. I mean, any homeowner that had contributed to those organizations was at risk of increased taxes, penalties, and interest, because had they been audited during that time, and the IRS auditor would have examined those contributions, they would have been disallowed. Again,
It's no bueno.
retroactively approved, so it's as if it never happened.
Okay.
And there was never any question about whether that was going to be the result. It was just roll up your sleeves and get it done.
Sure.
So I've been in contact with the boards for all 3 of those organizations, and now that we have accomplished the mission of A, getting retroactive exemption reenacted, B, creating a how-to manual with electronic links so that the treasurer just comes in and says, I don't know what I'm doing, I click on this link, I read the instructions, I file this electronic form, I'm done. Or I read the instructions and they've changed, I have questions, who can I go to? Well, it's got my cell phone number, which hasn't changed in 10 years. If you have questions, you can call me. So I've agreed with all 3 boards that now is the appropriate time to transition. Now that what I have accomplished for them, or we have accomplished together, has been done, it's appropriate for me to go ahead and transition off, which will enable me to volunteer in other ways. Like right now, being the treasurer of the Athletic Booster Club is taking a great deal of time. It is a labor of love. My son is the starting center
for the Mountain House Mustangs football team. Go Mustangs!
First home game's Friday.
First home game is Friday, and I expect to see all of you at the game, buying concessions. Do not eat dinner before the game.
Will they have a concession stand? I thought there was something sort of about a snack bar that was up in the air.
We are going to use the snack shack that's been allocated to us, which is in the corner. It's in that little corner closet, if you will, with windows. It's like a ticket booth, only it actually is a snack shack, and it is on the football field side.
There's only 3 home games now? This is news to me. I honestly didn't know that.
As well, okay, that's the latest that I've heard, and the last I heard was that one of our home games was dropped. It was supposed to be 4, and they dropped 1. Maybe it's been. I know Lavinia Woods is doing, working very hard to try to add another home game, but last I heard, one of them had been dropped.
I would imagine at this point, like, teams are probably all scheduled. It's pretty hard to add an additional home game, I would think.
Actually, they had already been scheduled, by the time that they hired her and she came on board and got her feet on the ground, a lot of schedules in Northern California had already been set. So she really had to work hard, as I understand it,
Just to
get 3 or 4 home games.
Yeah, I mean, she seems like she's doing great work. I know that a lot of people went out to Modesto for that first game. I didn't go, but
I was there.
I know quite a few people did. There were some videos. I managed to see some videos, probably some pictures there. It looked like a really good time.
I sat behind Bob, but you can definitely hear my voice yelling for the Mustangs.
That's good. That's good.
The whole place heard them.
Yeah, I think this first home game is going to be really popular. Like, I know a ton of people that are going. People without kids, even in high school. Like, I mean, I have a 1-year-old or a first grader.
1-year-old.
And we're going to go down there. And I have some other friends who are going to go down there as well that don't have kids in high school. Or in some cases, they don't even have kids in the school district at all. Their kids are all grown out. But moved on, and the guy just loves him some football, so he's going to go down there with us. Like, I think having home games in town would be great. I think.
I hope so.
I don't know. It's like a rant.
A lot of people have told us they're coming even though they don't have kids in the high school, or like you said, some people that their kids are college age now. They're still going to come out and support the Mustangs. Can we shorten that to Stangs, or is that like totally not done?
It's awful.
I know, it totally is. So I've been saying
So
Mustang.
if we go to your website, which again was what?
www.electcolinclements.com.
What other platforms will we see there?
You will see my philosophy, obviously, on school site construction, right? And I talk about that. Enrichment programs, I talk about that. And
You could just throw something at
Stop
someone.
interrupting him.
well, yeah, I actually do have a message. I mean, it's the same message. I want to see everybody in this community, all 5,000 voters, at the football game on Friday.
I think we know you're going to have to cut out early so you can get on YouTube. You just need a little thing of Colin Clements going, Friday, football.
Football.
You're like ColinClements.com.
That would actually get you more votes probably if people thought your platform is football. Oh, well, this is the guy we can get behind.
Yeah, why not? Everybody loves football.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This was awesome.
Hey, thanks very much for coming out. This is our second attempt. Hopefully, we'll do some more. We'll have some more questions as we get closer to the day. We're hoping to have people back on again. Would you be interested in doing something with maybe the other candidates?
Absolutely.
There won't be any Brown Act violations, so we
Possibly
can
a
sort
panel
of
interview?
throw out a little panel action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
What's going